There we go. Good whenever you are, Bobby.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Seeing is Believing virtual bus tour. This is probably about, I think, our fourth or fifth of these tours. The meeting is going to be recorded so that we can share it broadly with community partners, and we'll just dive right in. Okay, so today we have a few special guests with us. From WrapAround Northumberland, we have Carissa Summers. From Community Care Northumberland, we have Leanne Parrott, and myself, Bobby Dawson from Northumberland United Way. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to start the first stop on our tour with Carissa from WrapAround Northumberland. Welcome, Carissa.
Hello, thanks for having me. So I'm Carissa Summers. I'm the coordinator at WrapAround Northumberland. I also am a facilitator that works directly with families. So I'll just start off by telling you guys a little bit about what WrapAround is. So WrapAround, our main thing is helping families meet their own needs with team support. That is our motto, and it's about connecting families within their own communities is what we're hoping to do. So at WrapAround, we serve families who reside within Northumberland County. So you have to live within Northumberland. You have to have one member of the family who is 19 years of age or younger. So we came out of the Children's Services Committee. That's where we kind of started. So you have to have a youth within your family. We accept self-referrals and agency referrals, and our families have to have complex needs. So that means that there has been a history of involvement with traditional services that haven't necessarily been a great fit. So they're not seeing a lot of success. And out of that, they often get a referral to WrapAround. And that's where we work with families to help develop a team of both formal and informal support. So that's who we serve within Northumberland. So what exactly is WrapAround? So we're a strength-based planning process for families that uses a team approach. So that is bringing together people involved in the whole family system. So that includes typical like service providers as well as community support. So that's friends, families, neighbors, sports coaches. We bring everyone together to help the family work on goals that they themselves has identified. So we only ever work on goals that the family chooses to work on, which is a little bit different than some other services. So families with their facilitator help develop a plan that works towards their goals while focusing on their strengths, their community, and what resources are actually available to them within their own community. And so that can look really different across Northumberland County because in Port Hope and Cobourg, there's a lot more access to resources, whereas when you get out into the more rural areas, there's not as much access and transportation can be a problem. So one big thing is that we meet families where they're at. So we go to families directly, we visit them in their homes or at the local restaurant, wherever they're comfortable. So that can be a little bit different as well. They don't generally come to our office, we go where the family's at, and that's how we meet with families. So we are family driven, and we believe that families know what is best for them. So a typical WrapAround meeting it happens every 4 to 6 weeks. And at that time, we just kind of meet with the families, see what goals have been met. We discuss maybe why those goals haven't been met. And then we just work with the families to say, well, what we must be doing something wrong. There must be something wrong with that plan that we weren't able to meet it. So let's just develop a different plan that's going to work. So it's very much no shame, no blame. It's just we move on, we develop a new plan, and we start working with the family. There is no timeline on a WrapAround involvement with WrapAround. Generally, it's between 6 months to a year, but We have families that have been with us for quite a bit longer than that, and there is no end time necessary. So the family chooses the pace in which they want to work towards their goals. Sometimes the plan has to be revised, and we just move on and keep working towards goals. And as families, more goals keep popping up, and eventually we just stay involved until the family decides that everything that they have the team in place, that they no longer need us. They become their own facilitator. If we have done our job right, they know how to develop their own teams and put plans in place, and they become their own facilitator. That's the hope. So we call these wraparound life domains. So when we meet with a family, these are the areas in which we help family identify potential goals. So these are family, safety, social, education, recreation, health, spiritual, vocation, financial, legal, cultural, and housing. And these all came out of the social determinants of health, which essentially says if you are being successful in all these areas, you will be successful in life, or feel good anyways, right? Depending whatever your definition of success is. So these are just some stats. So in the wraparound process in 2020, these just show the number of children served and families served. And in 2020, and this is pretty consistent year after year, is that around between 80 and 100 families are served in a year. So there's only actually 3 facilitators at WrapAround, and at any time they carry a caseload of about 30 families. But these are all families that are in different levels of need. Most of our referrals, as you can see, do come from child welfare. So there is a history of involvement with child welfare, but we also accept community referrals from all agencies, and actually a lot of referrals, especially during COVID and during the pandemic, a lot of our referrals were actually self-referrals. So these are families that have mostly usually have talked to other friends and family, and they have those family that have been involved with WrapAround are referring friends and family and telling them, get involved with WrapAround. They can get you connected to services and supports that you might need. And then during the pandemic, access to services has been very limited, mostly because you haven't been able to go into places. So there's been a real barrier there. So we've been doing a lot of work with families based on self-referral and just getting them connected so that they know what programs are available. We can move to the next slide. So the ways in which we evaluate WrapAround and how we're doing is we do goal scaling, functional indicators, and then we have a thing called the WrapAround Fidelity Index, which makes sure that we're staying true to WrapAround. Our functional indicators, and these are the things that we that are very important to WrapAround, and these are just that we hope that we can develop in families. There's a hope for the future. We want to hope that our main goal is to make sure that they feel like they are feeling control back in their lives and that they are getting support in their community. So if we have been successful in improving the scores in those 3 areas, that's usually when we feel that a family is able to start transitioning out of WrapAround. And one of the huge things that at WrapAround is just developing those community connections. And here we just said that in 2020, of the 93 families, they identified that on average, they felt more they got connected to 4 different community connections. So those could be getting access to, I'm just going to give some examples here, getting connected to, the food bank, or referring them to the health center, the legal center, just letting them know what community connections are available out there, and getting those things in place so that they feel supported. So So there were 285 new connections for families with local community supports that were made by the facilitators and the families. So how United Way has provided support to WrapAround. So we have received funding to cover transportation costs so that we can provide support to families directly in their home, so that we can go to them, meet with them, as well as help with transportation if needed to other community agencies, if transportation is a barrier. We've also been able to increase staffing at WrapAround so that we are continuing to maintain no wait lists for our families to receive support, because most families that are referred to WrapAround are referred at a time of crisis in which support is needed at that time, not 10 weeks from then. So we work very hard to maintain no wait lists so that we can get support and services in place when it's needed. In the last year and a half, we're able to get funding to purchase technology for families, so they were able to stay connected. Since a lot of services and supports, especially mental health supports, went online during the pandemic, a lot of our families didn't have access to technology to be able to go to appointments. And so we were actually able to provide some families with some technology so that they could continue to go to those appointments. We also have bought grocery gift cards for families, where, you know, there was a time transportation became a really large issue during the pandemic, and that they weren't able to get to places to actually get food especially at the very start. So getting gift cards and getting delivery done. Promotional materials, and WrapAround families also rely on the United Way for the backpack program yearly. And that's one of the biggest hits, and one of the things that we are asked about constantly come August is, when is my backpack coming? There's nothing better than showing up to a home with their brand new backpacks and the kids being like so excited. It's actually my favorite thing to do every year. These are some just family testimonials and things that families have said, that I'll just read a few. Knowing that your facilitator won't give up on you is a very positive feeling. And that's one thing that we hear about a lot, is that we don't have, we're a little bit persistent at WrapAround. We never give up, we just restart the plan. And that if, you know, there's no 3 strikes you're out rule at WrapAround. It's never ending until you finally tell us that you're done with us. We'll never be done with you. WrapAround was very helpful to my family when I was feeling frustrated, tired, and confused, dealing with multiple problems that seemed to be going from bad to worse. Helpful tool to help build a stronger family, and so on. That's like the main thing we hear about from WrapAround, is just the ability to have positive feedback, feel that they're able to, we focus on the strengths and help build the team. These are just some facilitator testimonials. I'll read one. What I really like about my role is the voluntary component for the family, because it helps instill a sense of ownership at times when families feel they are not in control. I have often found families feel they are burdening their friends and family with their issues. As a facilitator, I offer support and understanding, the more formal social services, and act as a link to community resources. I also really enjoy that every family experience is unique and helps to reinforce the idea that as humans, we are all in this together. And then I just had a part for questions, but I think we can move on from that.
Thank you so much, Carissa.
No problem.
Does anyone have any questions for Carissa? From Ashley Doyle to everyone, it sounds like you folks do amazing work.
Thank you.
I could not agree more. I absolutely love the concept of meeting families where they're at and not giving up and just pivoting if you need to, right? Because not every
Yeah.
plan is going to fit every family. So I've learned a lot today about what Wraparound does. So thank you, Carissa, for that
Thank you.
presentation.
I could go on for a lot longer, but
I'm sure.
we'll keep it short here today. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Oh, there's a question from Shane Watson to everyone. What training is involved for facilitators?
So our facilitator, there's a 4-day wraparound facilitator training that every facilitator has to do, and that's provided through Wraparound Canada, which is our national association. And since Community Care is actually here today, I'll give them a little plug. There's actually a wraparound senior, like I think it's called the volunteer. There's a volunteer seniors wraparound program. I'm not saying the right name, but it's starting through Community Care, or the OTN, actually, I think is the actual host. And they will be providing a wraparound facilitator training at the end of October, the beginning of November. If anyone is interested in becoming a wraparound facilitator volunteer, they'll be working directly with seniors, so a little bit different than our program, but also hugely needed in our community and would be a great volunteer opportunity. Linda is here today, and maybe she can provide the contact information for that, because I'm sure you know it.
Thanks, Carissa. Yeah, that's a volunteer leadership program that's a partnership with Community Care and the Ontario Health Team. And that information will be placed on our website, as well as the OTN, the Ontario Health Team Northumberland website. And Kelly Peterson leads that, who has done a lot of work with Wraparound Northumberland.
Yes, she was a facilitator for us in the past, so yeah, I definitely recommend it if anyone's interested.
Yeah, Carissa, it was great to hear the presentation, because Wraparound's been around for a number of years, and it is an amazing service to support families in our community. So it's been great to have it, and certainly, especially those high-risk families, it's nice to keep the service here rather than families going outside of the community. So we also do a lot of work with Greenwood Coalition. So
yes, Yes, I should say that as well. If you're also interested in getting involved with Wraparound, who has a more of a volunteer base, is Greenwood Initiative also does wraparound with adult individuals, and they have a volunteer base there as well. And that would be David Sheffield would be a good contact. Maybe we can send out an email later.
Yeah, we can do that. Thanks so much, Carissa.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on now, and we're getting back on the bus and going up the road to Community Care Northumberland. So welcome, thank you, Leanne. I think it's welcome Linda Kay as well. My apologies for not welcoming you earlier. We'll go ahead with your presentation at this time.
Okay, well, hello everybody. I'm Leanne Parrott. I'm the Director of Client Services for Community Care Northumberland. And as Bobby just said, Linda Kay is also here with Community Care. She's our Director of Donor Relations. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about how United Way has helped us immensely this last year and ongoing actually. But you need to understand a little bit about what we do. And so we're going to go through these slides, and I'll explain some things. So as you can see, we have lots of office locations throughout the county. So we have an office in Campbellford, we have an office in Brighton, one in Cobourg, and one in Port Hope. And I guess the most recent addition that we have is Ed's House, which is a hospice care center, residential center. That's in Cobourg as well. Next slide, please. So we have approximately 70 full-time and part-time staff that work out of those 4 offices, and then also out of Ed's House. We have between 700 to 800 volunteers, and they all contribute about 85,000 annual volunteer hours, which is amazing. And we service over 6,000 clients all across Northumberland County. and sometimes even a little outside of it if need be. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the programs that we offer at Community Care Northumberland. So our Nutrition Services Department covers Meals on Wheels, which we provide hot and frozen meals, which we deliver right to the client's door with the help of volunteers. We are very volunteer driven. And pre-COVID, we haven't, while COVID's been going on, we also have a community diners program, which is like a buffet style get together for people in our communities that they can come to it. And we'll be back on top of that one as soon as possible. Next slide, please. We also have an in-home support department, and they cover things like home help, which is like light housekeeping. We have brokered workers that provide that service. We do home maintenance, so like odd jobs around the house. If somebody isn't able to and they need some help with painting a fence or fixing the caulking in a bathroom, we can provide people to do that. And Home at Last as well, which is a service that helps people when they're leaving the hospital so that we can help them with medication pickup, personal care, transportation, groceries, etc. Next slide. Transportation, a very important one always, but especially during the pandemic. We had a lot of people that weren't able to get out as much as they normally would, and they needed to get to services that were still ongoing, that were life-saving services, such as chemo people had to go for. They also had to go for dialysis. There was lots of different opportunities to be able to be there to help people, but we have 3 different sections of our transportation department, and it's really grown over the last few years. So we have a whole section that's volunteer drivers, and it's exactly as it sounds. They use their own vehicles, they pick up clients, get them to doctor's appointments, run errands sometimes, and even something as simple as going to get their hair done. We have a specialized transportation, which are accessible vehicles for people that have mobility issues. And then we also have a rural route transportation, which really operates like a regular bus program, but it helps people that are out in rural areas get to more urban centers within the county for all of the services that they'd like to access. And we also have a wellness services department, and this has really become important in the concept of helping people to be able to stay at home longer. So there's exercise and falls prevention. We have classes and workshops, like exercise classes, but also just hobbies and things that get people out so that they can get together. We also have social groups like men's groups and ladies groups and all mixed together groups. We do telephone reassurance calls, extremely important, these ones. And again, always, but especially during the pandemic, loneliness is always an issue for a lot of the clients that we help. And unfortunately, it just got worse as we got more and more isolated with the pandemic. Friendly visiting is another one that we offer, so that if somebody's extremely isolated, we can send somebody in to just sit and have a coffee with them or play cards or whatever the interest of the client is. And then we also offer personal distress alarms, which are, like the lifeline things where you wear a bracelet or a necklace, and if something happens, you can press a button and get emergency help immediately. And as I said, our most recent addition, this is just a picture of Ed's house, our hospice care center, which is located in Coburg. Right now we have 6 suites in there that are operational, but there's 4 framed in, ready to go when the funding becomes available. And upstairs we have the resident care, but downstairs is where we have our community hospice team. So this shows our impact, and even when I read it, I get pretty impressed on how much we do. But 2021, we provided over 41,000 Meals on Wheels. Home helped and maintenance, helped 332 people. Our virtual exercise classes, we had switched to virtual with the pandemic, and we had 339 people. We had helped 382 community hospice clients. We did over 11,000 essential drives in between those three fork prongs of the transportation services. Almost 32,000 social and safety visits. That includes phone and when we were able to in person. Our Home at Last program, which is the people getting them from hospital to home, there was 229 people. And at Ed's house, we had supported over 100 different residents and their families. So quickly, basically you can access our services in any different way. It could be self-referral, it could be family referral, it could be through a doctor, another organization. The only difference is for Ed's house, it has to be through a healthcare provider. And we open it to everyone. It's something that anybody, if they feel that they need it. So Meals on Wheels, it's not, you're not just a frail senior. It could be that you've had to have surgery and you're just not able to make yourself meals for a little while. We're happy to step in and help with that. And some of our programs are free and some of them do have fees attached. We try and keep it as low cost as possible. And we also, if somebody can afford it, I haven't seen a case yet where we've turned them down. We have figured out, and the United Way kind of ties in here too, but we have found ways to subsidize costs, if somebody really is having a difficult time paying for whatever they need to. So this is where the United Way support came in. As you can see, there's 3 different ways that they've helped us. So we had the Horizons for Senior grant, and it assisted in delivering 9,400 meals, 1,169 clients by subsidizing their Meals on Wheels, and 1,300 essential drives for 632 clients. The Emergency Community Benefit Services Fund helped us with distress alarms purchased and distributed to some of our most extremely vulnerable clients, and helped us with a new integrated phone system, which was sorely needed. The Supporting Seniors at Home program, there were 24 seniors were supported through there. And we also were able to provide the Adopt a Grandparent program, which was an add-on. We didn't realize just how needed this would be, but there were so many individuals out there that were seniors on their own, again, very lonely, not any family around to speak of. So we were able to put together gift bags for over 100 different people to bring them a surprise at Christmas time for them to unwrap, and everything was wrapped when we brought it to them, and it was extremely well received, extremely well appreciated. And then we had the Community Impact Grant, which supports, again, vulnerable clients. And the services we that benefited from that grant were the Meals on Wheels transportation, home help, telephone security checks, and the personal distress alarms. And it supported 54 clients. So that's almost it for us. I guess one thing that I would like to stress is that our funding, there are people out there that assume that we're just totally funded through the Ministry of Health, and we're not. We're just a little over 50% covered by the ministry. And so the rest of the finances that we need to be able to have the impact that we're having needs to come from fundraising and grants. So we can't tell you how much we appreciate the United Way's assistance in helping us to do what we do. It's been vital, and we're so appreciative of that. And I know that the clients, we make it very clear, the help that we get from you guys. And we're just, we know through talking to some clients, we know what the impact is. And it's amazing. As I said, we have so many people that we're able to reach that weren't going to be able to get to appointments. They didn't know what they were going to do or how they were going to do it. Or, you know, we have clients that literally have no family around, and you've got a senior living in a home by themselves, living all on one floor because they can't get to their basement anymore or upstairs. And we're able to deliver them a meal with help with organizations like yours, and see where else we can help them, see who we can refer them to get them everything they need to be living a great life at home and not so restricted. That's it for us. If anybody has any questions for either Linda or I.
Thanks, Leanne and Linda. Thank you for all that you do for everyone in our community. As Carissa mentioned earlier, transportation can sometimes be a real issue, especially for folks living in rural areas in Northumberland. So with the support from community care in the community, you're able to get out to those folks who are isolated on their own and need support. So just such an essential program, such an essential organization in Northumberland County. So thanks so much for all that you do. We do have a question from Shane Watson. Where is your greatest need for volunteers currently?
Linda, do you want that one or do you want me to take it?
Well, you can take it, but I think we need volunteers for all our different areas, do we not, Leanne? Like we need drivers, we need volunteer drivers, volunteers to help deliver Meals on Wheels. I mean, you know, we have people do telephone security checks, but you know, in every area that we provide service across the county, and we need them across the county. I know right now we're really looking for drivers down in Port Hope, Brighton, and in Campbellford. We really need drivers right now. So, you know, we have a lot of demand for our service, and especially getting people out to appointments and such. And the drivers are a big area. I think so, right, Leanne?
Yeah, and I agree. And the only other thing that I would add is I know right now we have a bit of a shortage of home help workers.
Yes.
So it's just a sign of the times. Unfortunately, when the pandemic happened, some of our home help workers didn't feel comfortable going into other people's homes. Fair enough. But it created a bit of a waiting list for us. So I would say our two biggest would be transportation and home help. So please, as Linda said earlier, go on our website. All that information is on there, and the exact person that you want to contact is on there as well. And you're welcome, Shane.
I just want to mention too, at our AGM, we had a number of our volunteers talk about what it's like to volunteer for community care and what they get out of it. And it was very touching to hear, you know, how they felt about being a volunteer and helping people out. Some of our drivers, I mean, they drive all over. They go to Toronto, they go to Kingston, they go to Ottawa, they go to Peterborough, and they often drive the same client to their appointments, be it chemo, be it dialysis. And, you know, these are very important that these individuals get to those appointments. So, but it's, yeah, it was really interesting to hear their stories and to hear what they get out of volunteering and how much they love it.
Thanks, Leanne and Linda. Okay, so now we're going to move on. And again, this will be available afterwards. So if there's something you missed and you want to go back to it, it'll be available for everyone. So the last stop on our Seeing is Believing tour is Northumberland United Way. So as many of you already know, Northumberland United Way has been in Northumberland County for just over 50 years, providing support to the social service sector, as well as through dollars, but as well as through capacity building, convening discussions, things like that, bringing partners together, and really just trying to respond to community needs wherever possible. This is our team at United Way. For those of you who don't know all of us, myself, Bobby Dawson, Kathy Kavanaugh is our Director of Finance and Community Impact. We have Diane Turk, and she's our Director of Resource Development. Maggie Darling is our Director of Communications and Engagement. And we have a new staff member, Chelsea Rankin has joined us as our Communications and Fundraising Associate. We are the largest funder of social service programs locally as well as across Canada. United Ways are the largest funder of social service programs outside of government. Okay. So we, as Leanne mentioned earlier, and as Carissa had mentioned as well, Northumberland is, a lot of services are Cobourg and Port Hope Central. And, as a result, we need organizations to be mobile and again, relying on a lot of volunteer support to get out to those more rural areas. We provide support to community partners from Port Hope to Brighton up to Trent Hills, so all over Northumberland County. You may or may not know this, but 1 in 3 residents in Northumberland County access a United Way funded program or service. So they may access one, they may access more than one, but the ripple effect of this on their families and on the community is absolutely immeasurable. There's no telling how far that impact goes. This is Steve. Steve is a community member. His identity has been protected, but he's, his story is pretty common through the pandemic. A lot of people felt as though they were losing everything, and that was true for Steve and his family. As a result of layoffs, closures, things like that. It can, if you are someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, it can have quite the impact on your ability to feel hopeful about the future. So with the support of United Way, as well as our community partners, Steve and his family feel as though they are able to put their lives back together at this point. So it really does have an impact on residents in the community. Next slide, please. So last year, we were able to put $951,801 into Northumberland County Essential Programs and Services. And that was as a result of donations from community members, provincial and federal partnerships. So we had, and then as well through our COVID-19 relief fund. Next slide, please. So since the pandemic began and closures began, United Way Northumberland came together to create the COVID-19 Community Relief Fund. So since March of 2020, we've invested more than $45,000 in local programs and services. And this fund has a bit more flexibility than our annualized funds or our grants, in that we are able to respond quite quickly. It doesn't have the same sort of stringent ways of funding. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to be sure that we could respond as folks needed it and as new and emerging needs arose. So that meant that we were able to fund more than 30 organizations this past year. So typically you might see United Way with annualized funding, we may support 6 to 8 agencies, grants, we might extend that a bit further, but this year we were able to reach out and really create new partnerships and fund some of the organizations that we haven't in the past. And so again, the ripple effect of that is immeasurable. Next slide, please. So we do our work in 3 focus areas. We help kids feel that they can be, we move people from poverty to possibility, and we build strong communities. And we do different things under each of those umbrellas. So All the Kids Can Be focus area is really supporting kids and helping them to have a better future. And so that might look like supporting the entire family. So for example, this year, 354 families joined Rebound's Triple P Positive Parenting Program. And that's a support that provides resources to the entire family. It looks at a holistic approach to the family so that kids have a better chance at a brighter future. 179 children were able to attend mentorship programs through Big Brothers Big Sisters, and 92 children participated in online musical training through Sounds of the Next Generation, which helped to support mental health as well as combat isolation through COVID-19 pandemic closures. So Laura's story, she's another resident in Northumberland County. She says, during COVID, both my fiance and I were off work for a few months. We have 3 children and we're stressed about back to school. The backpack program really helped us get our children started with back to school, and it's beyond appreciated. Next slide. So building a strong community. This focus area looks different from community to community, and in our community, it looks at families and it looks at seniors. And this past year, 684 individuals were able to receive counseling support through the Community Counseling, Northumberland Community Counseling Center. As well, 93 families, including 177 children, received wraparound support to access food, housing, employment, and other assistance. Next slide, please. Richard's story is a common story in Northumberland County. We have a high demographic of retirees, seniors, and often what happens when one spouse passes away is that leaves the other spouse to sort of fend for themselves, and so that can be very, very unsettling and not, you know, not a good time for people. And so living alone, that in and of itself can present a challenge, but even just activities of daily living, supplies, food, those kinds of things. And so with our community partners, we're able to provide service to Richard. So, you know, that's something that it's sort of a valuable service that I think each one of us can imagine needing in the future. So next slide, please. So from Poverty to Possibility, we really focus on meeting basic needs and lifting people out of poverty situations. So this past year, we were able to provide 708 households in Northumberland County Christmas hamper through the Salvation Army's Christmas hamper program. 395 people were assisted with intensive housing services, and 69 others were supported with rent geared to income applications through the health center. We were also able to support Transition House, the emergency shelter, which provided 895 nights of shelter to 53 individuals in our community. Next slide. So Mike's story, common story, you know, it's, if you get behind in paying your rent even once, and you're someone who lives paycheck to paycheck, that can really create a ripple effect, a negative ripple effect, where you're needing to choose between meeting basic needs and keeping a roof over your head and all of those things. And so, you know, because of that, we were able to start our Northumberland Needs program, which I will speak to in just a moment. But this is a common story for many people who might not have additional resources or additional savings, and one bad moment can really have a long-standing impact on someone's life. Next slide, please. We also run our own programs, so we support community partners to run their programs, but we also have a few that we run ourselves. One is Backpack for Kids, as you know, Northumberland Eats, Day of Caring, Period Promise, and then of course we support 211. So since its inception in 2005, more than 17,000 backpacks have been distributed to kids in need before the school year to ensure that they have a good start. This past year, we've added sanitizer and masks so that there's also that safety component. Next slide. Day of Caring. I've not actually been able to participate in a Day of Caring since coming on to this United Way. I've only been here for just over 2 years. Because of the pandemic, we've had to cancel our Day of Caring. However, our community partners and sponsors did donate funds in lieu of their participation, which was fantastic, because we were able to then support the COVID-19 Community Relief Fund through that, and partners needing some additional support during this time. So thank you to all of those partners. Next slide, please. So Northumberland Eats is a program that began around Christmas last year, and it was a partnership with Northumberland County, and the initiative had started as a result of, well, food security, wanting to provide a hot meal to folks who need it in the community, to be able to go to a restaurant locally and get a hot meal. It also looked at some of those restaurants, local places that were struggling as a result of closures because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it really was a community built sort of initiative. It continues to go strong to this day. More than 11,000 vouchers totaling $70,000 have been invested in food vouchers to address the food insecurity as a result of the pandemic. So United Way continues to lead this program, and we hope that it will be available for many years to come. Next slide. This initiative is about raising awareness around menstrual hygiene, period poverty and menstrual hygiene health. So United Way Northumberland and Thrive Coalition to End Violence have partnered to bring this initiative to Northumberland County. Period Promise really does raise awareness around the idea that it's a basic right that people have access to menstrual hygiene products. And we ourselves are a certified organization, which means anyone visiting United Way Northumberland will have access to menstrual hygiene products in our organization. We encourage others to also do the same. And we continue to raise awareness and products. So over 7,000 menstrual hygiene products were distributed to local individuals through Period Promise Northumberland. So super excited about that initiative. Next slide. 211. Many of you may or may not know, 211 is a number you can call on your phone, or you can visit ontario211.ca. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in 150 languages, and it really exists to help people navigate the social service system. So non-emergency, but if you need support with housing, food security, counseling, those kinds of things, 211 can direct you to the right resources, let you know what the criteria is to become involved with a particular service, and really does help make it a bit easier when there are hundreds of services. Needing to navigate that can be quite daunting, and so 211 really does help simplify that. Next slide. We are excited to say that we are a living wage employer, certified living wage employer. And in Northumberland, as of last year, certified living wage is $18.06 an hour. And so as a way to highlight the importance of living wage to help end poverty, we locally have taken that on, and we are encouraging other organizations. And we know that there are a couple of other companies locally that are also certified living wage employers. So we will be talking about that and advocating for that in Northumberland County. Next slide, please. So this is our message for this year. It's our time. What will you do now? We have learned so much from this pandemic. We have learned to work together in different ways. We've been innovative in ways that we never have had to be before. So it really, the pandemic in some ways has really been an agitator. And the silver lining of the pandemic has been that we've had to be a bit more creative in the way that we do things. And so we have an opportunity to build on that momentum. And how are we going to, what are we going to do in the future to make sure that all of this momentum and all of this learning continues with us well into the future? And so we ask you, what will you do now? What have you learned, and what will you take forward with you into our community, into the work that you do, into your families, and how will we do things differently? So thank you to everyone who has come out today, and for all of the work that you do in our community. Thank you, Leanne and Linda and Carissa, for presenting fantastic work. Please, if you'd like to become a GEM member, or if you know someone that might become a GEM member, this is a monthly giving program that we've recently launched at United Way. Again, we couldn't support our community partners unless we were able to raise funds. So you can learn more by visiting our website at mynuw.org, or you can reach out to me directly. Thank you so much. And if there's any questions, I'll take them now. Doing a little countdown. I think we're good. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Thanks for coming, and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mhm.